Hey everybody, so this is kind of my first real staged or attempt at a staged shoot, so please pardon the crummy camera shots and the missed cues and all that other stuff that comes along with trying to record one of these videos and do a halfway decent job at it. Today we're going to talk about the installation of the Innovv K2 camera system on my 2016 Harley-Davidson Road Glide. Some video footage of my first or second ride here on the bike with the camera installed, and we'll run through the parts list and the tools list at the end of the video, so skip to that if that's what you're looking for, but I encourage you to suffer through the video and just kind of get an idea of my trials and tribulations as we move forward here. I am going to include some of that crummy footage that I hate to admit to, but it does kind of give you an idea of some of the parts that are going to be coming up, and we'll struggle through this together. So moving on. All right, a little bit more progress on reassembly. Got the front fairing cover mostly in place. Got these just placeholders that kind of help me position it. I've stickered down the Innovv GPS sensor. I've also, don't forget this, make sure you reconnect your wires for your turn signals. Got everything bolted back together back here. I've got my deflectors on for the wind, and I'm starting to piece things back together. I've got enough clearance here. I've gone ahead and stickered that to there. I still need to get some zip ties to tie up this wire as I'm putting things back together from the front of the bike backwards. All right, so one beef I do have with this kit is Innovv's put these, I'm not taking them apart now because it took me forever to get them back together, but this collar right here unscrews, and there's, you know, this is a male connection, this is a female connection, they fit together, and then this screw fitting is supposed to hold those two plugs together. Great idea and concept, and I've seen it executed successfully, but I quite literally, and you can probably see some of the scarring on this, I had to hold this side with the pliers just to get this side to screw in, just because my fingers didn't have enough purchase to hold them together. So I'm assuming these are going to hold together okay. When you pull them apart even right now, there is just a little bit of play, but there isn't any connectivity loss. So I'm going to assume it's all right for now. If I felt like pulling them back apart, I'd probably squirt some dielectric grease in there just to save myself some headaches later. But these connections are pretty tight down there, and I don't anticipate that they're going to get much intrusion. So just a note. All right, folks, day 2 of my install here. Things got a little dark last night. A little frustrated. Figured best off if y'all didn't see that. Here's what I ended up doing for installation. I've just got my fairing here temped up. Just got a screw up here and a screw over here. I'm not going to take that off right now for this, but what I ended up doing is underneath here, I've got the wire for the Innovv GPS module, which is just a mirror image of the built-in GPS module for the stereo system here. And then down underneath, I've got the camera. And what got me is when you've got the front fairing cover off, you've got this little lip down here. And sitting solely at this angle, it looked like that was safe. That was going to drill a hole into the inside of the fairing, and life would be all right. I got it on, came up here, and started looking down inside. And what you're going to notice is a bolt right there. That's the inside of the fairing. It didn't click with me sitting on the outside of this that would be visible from the cockpit, from the rider's seat. So my initial hardware was just some old galvanized quarter 20 screw bolt and a nut that I had here. And what I ended up doing instead is going up to the hardware store, local Ace, got some blacked out bolts, so it's not as visible. It really isn't going to bother me that much. I did notice, let's see if I can show it to you guys, is if I turn the handlebars here, and I don't know if you can see it, and I'll try to point my finger down there. See if, right here, this little hole. I could have probably done something with mounting from there, because even with the fairing on, that hole is just right up underneath here. So if you're gonna do this to your Road Glide, I suggest exploring that option. That said, I don't mind how this looks. It's out of the way. It's not front and center. It kind of gets hidden with all the clutter that is the turn signals. Harley does have a couple mounting bolts under here. I don't know what they're for. This is far enough forward that it should clear that mess. So I've got both wires run down and around, and they run along the side of the frame over here and down up underneath the tank, and I fed them right up under here, and they end up here. And I don't feel there's enough room on the electrical side, so I'm going to actually install the DVR on the right hand side of this bike, and I'm going to try to tape it to somewhere in here. I don't know how well that's going to do or not. We'll find out with a little trial. For the rear camera, this was a little bit more of a challenge. As you can see, I've taken both saddlebags off, and I did have the other one thrown up here for some fitment, but what I ended up doing is this here. And this mounting bracket here is the quick detach mounting bracket that you can buy from Harley-Davidson. And there's a pair of bolts, one here and one here, that fit flush, look real nice, they're chromed out. And what I found out is, without having to cut apart a hole or drill something into this where it might be visible if I decide to remove the camera system, I found out that the mounting hardware that ships with this camera fits perfectly here. I removed that. This is just a 1/4-20 thread, and I got a little pan head socket type bolt in here, and it's a 5/8 length. That gets this nice and tight, the spindle nice and tight again, and it's enough to hold this bracket on. And then having this bracket pushed, or the camera rather, pushed pretty far in, you can still see there's some gap there, but most of the way in, my saddlebag cover clears this with about a 1/4 inch to spare. There's enough flex in the bag that if you're not careful, yeah, you're gonna impact that camera, but it recesses far enough down once that bag is closed that it's not gonna rub or anything while you're riding. If it does, your bags are probably coming off anyway, so not a big deal. Underneath here then, what I'll be doing is just attaching with some black zip ties up around here, trying to keep everything back. I'm going to put a little slack in here just to help keep it away from the suspension. And then it'll feed up into here and then over to the DVR. Pretty straightforward. Power for the DVR and the camera system. This little power block here, it's all epoxied. It's not going to leak, or water's not going to get into it, I should say, so I'm not too worried about intrusion of any kind. Same goes for the DVR. It's supposed to be waterproof. So my intent is to possibly have the DVR in here like so. Maybe even just stuck right to this with that double-sided tape. See how that holds up. The reason I'm opting for this rather than under the seat is at some point if I want to put the power commander in, most of those instructions have you stick it right to the top of that there. The other thing is if I want to change out the SD card or plug into it for whatever reason, This side panel cover pops right off. It's just got these 3 body nuts, or these little plastic grommets, rubber grommets. And I can get to it without taking off the seat. I've got the strap across this seat. My daughter and my son like to ride with me, and they like to have something to hold on to. So I do keep that on there. I know some of you guys remove that, but with that strap on there, getting the seat off is kind of a pain, because you got to take this off, got to take the saddlebags off, you got to take the screws out, take the whole thing apart, and then put it all back together, whereas this just pops off with a couple of soft little plugs. So one more comment I wanted to make is I'm really glad they shipped an extra, or a couple of extra gaskets for this. If I can get this guy off. Actually, here's the one that doesn't have it on there. If you look at this here, see if I can get this guy to focus. Whoop. If you look here, I'm missing that rubber gasket on this. So I've done enough monkeying around for my own edification and for some of the YouTube stuff I'm trying to do here, that I've actually misplaced one of those gaskets. It's popped off of there, and I don't know where it is. So kudos to Innovv for shipping extras of those. Invariably what will happen is I'll come across it when I'm sweeping the garage next week or something. So I'll cut out of this, and I'll show you the final thing all buttoned up. If you have questions about the install, just ask. I can give you a little information, a little more insight into what I did and didn't do, and why I did and didn't do something. But I know I didn't cover taking off the fairing and taking off the saddlebags and all that, but there's enough other people out there that have covered that on either YouTube or a website or whatever. So I'll cut out and show you the bike all wrapped up, and hopefully a little cleaner. There's just a little bit of dust on this thing. So check back in a bit. Aha, what'd I say? I didn't even have to pull the spare out of the bag. It was sitting on the floor next to one of the places I was trying to thread that video connection through the bike. So I'll put this back on and start piecing things back together. Okay, folks, bike's back together, wiper down. You might even have a hard time seeing the camera just looking at the back of the bike, but it is right there. You can kind of see that clearance I was talking about. There's not a lot of it. And over time I might bump that camera, but I do have a little bit of room to snug it up if necessary. I think overall it'll be okay. Bags are back on, seat's back on. This cover over here fit just fine. Here's the front camera. Again, not too shabby. As we wrap up this video here, what I wanted to show you guys is the stuff I used to get this installed on. Might leave a couple of minor pieces out, nuts and bolts and things that weren't included with the kit. That's going to vary based on your installation, but that's represented by this Hillman bag here. Ace Hardware picked up a various set of hardware necessary to do my install. Some black cable ties to tie things up. 10mm socket. This is just an adapter and a wrench handle. 3/8" ratchet. A long extension. A TX25. A 3/16" Allen key. A 5/32" Allen key. And a 7/16" socket. This is going to, again, depend on what you end up using for hardware for your installation. This is the Vampire clamp I used. You know, the cable you're stealing power from goes on the outside edge, and if you can see it in there, the new cable goes in and butts up against there. Once you crimp that down, it kind of splices in and grabs hold of the conductors. 2 terminals, one for positive, one for negative. Good old vice grip to clamp this guy down. Wire strippers and then a crimping device. Overall, pretty simple installation. It took me a little longer. I kind of hobble around. I got a foot injury from a motorcycle accident a couple of years ago, but pretty simple to do if you've got everything involved necessary. Walk around. Bike's not perfectly clean, but I wiped down the stuff while I took it apart. If you're not one to do a lot of your own work frequently, pro tip, if I'm worthy of that, is when you have the parts apart, especially the body panels and things, take a little time to clean them out. It's not going to hurt anything. You'll feel a little bit better about the work you're doing, and you never know, you might not ever have that part again, that part apart again. So here's the install. It's all done. Everything seems to work. I'm going to take it for a spin, and I'll include the video as we trail out. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, all that other YouTube crap. You know what to do. Thanks for watching.